The beast broke loose, then guarded the human student like its own part one. The Galactic Academy. The shuttle dropped out of hyperspace, and Park Yuna pressed her face against the window like a child seeing snow for the first time. The Unified Species Academy hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of light and metal. It was massive, bigger than any space station she had seen in pictures, bigger than anything humans had ever built. She was 19 years old. She was one of only 3 humans at the academy, and she was terrified. The shuttle docked with a soft hiss, and Yuna grabbed her bag and walked into her new life. The corridors were wide and tall, built to fit species of all sizes. She passed creatures she had only read about in books. A tall being with blue skin and 4 arms nodded at her politely. A group of small, furry creatures scurried past her feet, chattering in a language her translator could not understand. A massive reptilian figure stood near a window, watching the stars with ancient eyes. Yuna felt very small, very soft, very human. Her advisor was waiting for her at the registration center. His name was Vessel Thran, and he was a reptilian from a world called Sereth Prime. He stood 2 meters tall, with green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to look right through her. When he spoke, his voice was deep and slow, like stones rolling down a hill. "You are the new human student," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir," Yuna replied. "Park Yuna, I am here for the xenobiology program." Vessel Thran studied her for a long moment. His tongue flickered out, tasting the air. Yuna knew from her studies that this was how his species gathered information. He was reading her, judging her. "Humans are rare here," he finally said. "Your species is young. You have only been traveling the stars for a few hundred years. Most species here have been doing so for thousands, some for millions." "I know," Yuna said quietly. "That is why I wanted to come. To learn." Something shifted in the reptilian's eyes. Perhaps it was respect. Perhaps it was just curiosity. He handed her a datapad with her room assignment and class schedule. "The academy has many wonders," Vessel Thran said. "It also has many dangers. There are places you must not go. The Eastern Wing is forbidden to students without special permission. Do you understand?" Yuna nodded. "What is in the Eastern Wing?" "The containment facilities," Vessel Thran replied. "We study dangerous creatures there. Predators from death worlds. Beings that have killed trained researchers. One creature in particular has been here for 40 years. We call it Specimen 07. Others call it the Ravager." A chill ran down Yuna's spine. The Ravager? It comes from a planet called Karth 4, a death world where everything evolves to kill. The Ravager is the apex predator of that world. It stands 3 meters tall. It has 6 limbs, armored scales that can stop plasma fire, and jaws that can cut through starship metal. In 40 years, it has killed 14 handlers. No species has ever approached it without triggering its kill response. Yuna swallowed hard. "Why do you keep it here?" "Because it is the perfect predator," Vessel Thran said simply. "If we can understand it, we can understand how to survive worlds like Karth 4. But so far, it has taught us only one thing: how to die." He turned and began walking away, then stopped and looked back at her. "Stay away from the Eastern Wing, human. Your species is soft. You have no claws, no scales, no venom. You would not survive a single second with the Ravager." Yuna watched him go. She should have been scared. She was scared. But there was something else too. Something that felt like sadness. That night, in her small room, Yuna could not sleep. She kept thinking about the Ravager. 40 years in a cage. 40 years of being studied and feared. She pulled up the research files on her datapad and began to read. The creature had been captured as an infant. A research team had killed its mother and taken it as a specimen. It had known nothing but cages and fear for its entire life. Every time someone approached, It attacked. Every time someone tried to study it, it killed. The researchers called it a monster. They called it a beast. They called it a perfect killing machine. But Yuna saw something else in the data. She saw a pattern. The Ravager always attacked first when someone showed fear. It always killed fastest when someone tried to run. It seemed to hate weakness. Or perhaps it hated fear itself. She thought about the dogs and wolves of Earth. Thousands of years ago, humans had looked at wolves and seen monsters, killers, beasts that could tear a human apart in seconds. But some humans had not run. Some humans had sat by the fire and waited. And slowly, over generations, the wolves had come closer. They had learned that humans were not prey. They were something else. Something that offered food and warmth and companionship. Now dogs slept in human beds and guarded human children. Yuna wondered if anyone had ever tried to just sit with the Ravager. Not to study it. Not to control it. Just to be near it. Just to show it that not everything in the universe wanted to hurt it. She closed the datapad and stared at the ceiling. She knew she should forget about the creature. She knew she should focus on her studies and stay away from the Eastern Wing. She was just a human. Soft and small and weak. But she could not stop thinking about those 40 years in a cage. She could not stop thinking about an infant torn from its mother and taught that the whole universe was its enemy. Somewhere in the Eastern Wing, the Ravager was pacing in its cell, alone, afraid, angry. And Park Yuna, for reasons she did not fully understand, felt her heart break for it. The days passed. Yuna attended her classes and learned about creatures from 100 different worlds. She made a few friends among the other students, though most species kept their distance from the small human girl. She was a curiosity to them, a novelty, the representative of a species that had only recently learned to walk among the stars. But every night, she read more about the Ravager. And every night, she felt the pull of the Eastern Wing growing stronger. She did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. And so was the life of the creature everyone called a monster. The beast broke loose, then guarded the human student like its own part too. The breach. 3 weeks into her semester. The solar storm came. Yuna was studying in a small room near the Eastern Wing when the lights flickered. She looked up from her datapad and frowned. The academy had backup power systems that could run for years. The lights should never flicker. Then the alarms began to scream. Red light flooded the corridor. A voice spoke over the speakers in a calm, mechanical tone that somehow made everything feel more terrifying. Containment breach in the Eastern Wing. All students and non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Containment breach in the Eastern Wing. Yuna jumped to her feet. Her heart was pounding. She ran to the door and pressed the release button, but nothing happened. The door stayed closed. She pressed it again and again, but the metal did not move. No, she whispered. The lockdown protocols had sealed her in. During a containment breach, all doors in the affected area closed automatically to prevent the escaped creature from spreading through the station. It was a safety measure. It was supposed to protect people, but it had trapped her. Yuna pulled out her communicator and tried to call for help. The screen was dead. The solar storm had knocked out the communication systems. She was alone. She was trapped. And somewhere nearby, something very dangerous was free. She heard the first scream. It came from down the corridor, muffled by the thick walls, but still clear enough to make her blood run cold. Then came the sound of metal tearing. Not bending, not breaking, tearing, like paper being ripped by giant hands. More screams, more tearing metal, and then a roar that shook the walls and made Yuna's bones vibrate. It was a sound of pure rage, pure power, pure hunger. The Ravager was loose. Yuna backed away from the door. Her mind was racing. She looked around the small study room for somewhere to hide. There was a desk, some chairs, a storage cabinet. Nothing that would stop a creature that could tear through. Starship metal. The sounds were getting closer. She could hear heavy footsteps now. Each one made the floor shake slightly. Each one was louder than the last. The Ravager was moving through the corridor, destroying everything in its path. She heard plasma fire security drones trying to stop it. Then she heard the drones being crushed like insects. Yuna pressed herself into the corner of the room. Her hands were shaking. Her breath was coming in short, quick gasps. She was going to die. She was going to die alone in this room, far from Earth, far from her family, far from everything she knew. The footsteps stopped outside her door. For a moment, there was silence. Yuna could hear her own heartbeat. She could hear the blood rushing in her ears. She could hear the soft hum of the emergency lights. Then, the wall exploded. The Ravager did not bother with the door. It simply smashed through the wall beside it, sending chunks of metal and plastic flying across the room. Yuna threw her arms over her head and screamed as debris rained down around her. When she looked up, the creature was there. It was bigger than she had imagined. Much bigger. It filled the hole it had made, its massive body blocking out the red emergency lights. Its scales were dark gray, almost black, covered in scars from decades of fighting. Its 6 limbs ended in claws that looked like curved swords. Its eyes were bright orange, burning with an intelligence that was terrifying to see. It was beautiful. It was horrible. It was the most magnificent thing Yuna had ever seen. The Ravager lowered its head and looked at her. Its nostrils flared as it smelled her. A low growl rumbled in its chest, so deep that Yuna felt it more than heard it. This was it. This was how she died. But Yuna did not scream again. She did not run. There was nowhere to run. There was nothing she could do. So she simply stood there, pressed against the corner, and looked at the creature that was about to kill her. And in that moment, something strange happened. She saw the scars on its body more clearly now. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Some were old and faded. Some were newer, still slightly raised. Each one was a memory of pain. Each one was a story of being hurt. She saw the way its muscles trembled slightly. Not from weakness. From constant tension. From always being ready to fight. From never feeling safe. She saw the look in its eyes. Rage, yes. But underneath the rage, something else. Something that looked almost like fear. Yuna's heart was still pounding. Her hands were still shaking. But when she spoke, her voice was soft, gentle. The same voice she used when talking to scared animals back on Earth. You are scared too, are you not? The Ravager stopped growling. Its head tilted slightly, like a dog hearing an unfamiliar sound. Its orange eyes focused on her with terrible intensity. Yuna took a slow, shaky breath. 40 years, she said quietly. You have been in a cage for 40 years. They took you from your mother. They put you in a box and poked you and studied you and never once asked if you were okay. The creature did not move. It did not attack. It just watched her with those burning eyes. I would be angry too, Yuna whispered. I would be so angry, and so scared, and so alone. A tear rolled down her cheek. She was not sure if it was from fear or from sadness. Maybe both. The Ravager made a sound. Not a growl. Not a roar. Something softer. Something almost like a question. And then, slowly, impossibly, it lowered its massive head until its scarred snout was level with Yuna's face. It was close enough that she could feel its breath, hot and heavy against her skin. Close enough that one snap of its jaws would end her life. Yuna raised her hand. She did not know why she did it. It was foolish. It was crazy. It was probably the last thing she would ever do. But she placed her palm gently against the creature's snout and let it rest there. The Ravager closed its eyes. And for the first time in 40 years, The perfect predator did not kill. The beast broke loose, then guarded the human student like its own part 3. The Bon Kang. Do-hyun had been a security officer for 12 years. He had fought pirates, stopped riots, and faced down criminals from a dozen different species. He thought he had seen everything the galaxy could throw at him. He was wrong. He stood at the front of the security team, plasma rifle raised, staring through the hole in the wall at a scene that made no sense. The Ravager, the creature that had killed 14 trained handlers. The monster that had torn through their security drones like they were made of. Paper was curled around a small human girl, like a mother protecting its child. "What the hell?" one of his soldiers whispered. Do-hyun held up his hand. "Everyone stay calm. Do not make any sudden movements." The Ravager's eyes opened. They fixed on the security team with burning intensity. A growl built in its chest, low and dangerous. Its body shifted, muscles coiling, claws scraping against the floor. It was getting ready to attack. "Sir, we need to take the shot," another soldier said. "We have a clear line on its head. We can end this." "No," Do-hyun said firmly. "Sir, with respect, that thing has killed." I said no. Do-hyun lowered his rifle slowly. "Everyone lower your weapons." "Sir." "That is an order." The soldiers hesitated, but they obeyed. One by one, they lowered their plasma rifles. The Ravager watched them, its growl slowly fading. It did not relax, but it did not attack either. Do-hyun looked at the human girl. She was young, 19, maybe 20. Her face was pale and streaked with tears, but her eyes were steady. She had one hand resting on the creature's snout. She was talking to it softly, words that Do-hyun could not hear. "Miss," he called out carefully. "Are you injured?" The girl shook her head. "No, I am fine. Can you move away from the creature?" "I do not think that is a good idea right now." The Ravager made a sound, almost like a purr. It pressed its massive head closer to the girl, and she scratched gently behind what might have been its ear. The most dangerous predator in the galaxy was acting like a pet. Do-hyun had studied xenobiology. He knew about imprinting. Some species formed powerful bonds with the first creature that showed them kindness or safety. But the Ravager had never imprinted on anyone. It had been studied for 40 years, and not once had it shown anything but hatred for every living thing around it. Until now. Until this small, soft human girl with no claws, no fangs, no armor. "Everyone back up," Do-hyun ordered. "Give them space. Get me a communication line to the Academy Council. And someone find out who this girl is." They backed away slowly. The Ravager watched them go. Its body still curved protectively around Yuna. Only, when the soldiers had retreated to a safe distance, did it finally lower its head and close its eyes again. Yuna let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Her whole body was shaking now that the immediate danger had passed. The creature beside her was warm, its scales surprisingly smooth against her skin. She could feel its heartbeat slow and powerful, like a drum made of thunder. "Good," she whispered. "You did good. They will not hurt you. I will not let them." The Ravager made that purring sound again. Its tail curled around her feet, not trapping her, but holding her gently, like it was afraid she would leave. "I am not going anywhere," Yuna said softly. "I promise." Hours passed. The security team kept their distance. Medical personnel arrived but could not approach. Researchers came with scanning equipment, but the Ravager growled whenever they got too close. Eventually, they brought Do-hyun back. He approached alone, no weapons, hands visible. The Ravager tensed but did not attack. It seemed to understand that this human was not a threat. "My name is Kang Do-hyun," he said to Yuna. "I am the human security liaison for the Academy. I have been talking with the Council. They are very confused about what is happening here." "I am confused too," Yuna admitted. Can you tell me what happened? How did you end up like this? Yuna told him everything. The locked door, the wall breaking, the creature entering, and the moment she had reached out and touched it instead of running. Do-hyun listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You touched it, he finally said. You touched the Ravager. No one has ever touched it and lived. I did not think about living or dying. I just saw a creature that had been hurt its whole life. I wanted it to know that not everyone wanted to hurt it. Do-hyun studied her. There was something in his eyes that might have been respect, or wonder, or maybe just disbelief. The researchers have a theory, he said. They think the creature has imprinted on you. It has chosen you as its protector. Or maybe it has chosen to be your protector. They are not sure which. Why me? They do not know. Imprinting usually happens with infants. This creature is 40 years old. It should not be possible for it to imprint on anyone at this stage. He paused. But humans are strange. Your species has a history of bonding with predators. Dogs, horses, cats. You turn monsters into family. Yuna looked at the creature beside her. Its eyes were open now, watching the conversation with that terrible intelligence. But there was no anger in its gaze when it looked at her. Only something that might have been trust. What happens now? She asked. That is up to the council. Some want to kill the creature while it is calm. Some want to study what has happened. Some want to separate you and see if the bond breaks. No, Yuna said immediately. You cannot separate us. It will go back to being afraid and angry. It will hurt more people. I told them that. But they are scared. They have been scared of this creature for 40 years. Yuna stood up slowly. The Ravager rose with her, its massive body towering over both humans. But it made no aggressive moves. It simply stood beside her, watching, waiting. Then let them be scared of me instead, Yuna said. Because I am not leaving it. And I am not letting anyone hurt it. Not anymore. Do-hyun looked at the small human girl and the giant predator standing beside her. He saw the determination in her eyes. He saw the loyalty in the creature's posture. And he realized that the galaxy had just changed. I will tell the council, he said quietly. I do not think they will like it. But I will tell them. He turned and walked away. Behind him, Yuna placed her hand on the Ravager's side and felt its heart beating against her palm. We will be okay, she whispered. I do not know how, but we will be okay. The creature made a soft sound and pressed its head against her shoulder. For the first time in 40 years, it was not alone. The beast broke loose, then guarded the human student like its own part for humanity's secret. The weeks that followed were strange and difficult. The Academy Council argued for days about what to do with Yuna and the creature. Some demanded that the Ravager be killed. Others wanted to study the bond. A few suggested sending Yuna back to Earth and hoping the creature would forget her dot in the end. They did nothing. They could not kill the Ravager without going through Yuna first. And no one wanted to be the one to harm a human student and start a diplomatic incident with Earth Dot, so Yuna stayed. And the creature stayed with her. She named it Jiam. It meant sword in Korean. It seemed fitting for a being made of blades and armor and deadly grace. At first, they gave her a special room in a secure wing of the academy. Jiam barely fit through the doors. But wherever Yuna went, Jiam followed. To classes, to the dining hall, to the library. The massive predator walked beside the small human girl, like a shadow made of scales and claws. The other students were terrified. They pressed themselves against walls when Yuna passed. They whispered behind her back. Some changed their class schedules just to avoid being in the same room as the creature. Yuna did not blame them. She understood fear. But she also knew that Jiam would never hurt anyone unless they tried to hurt her first dot. She spent hours every day learning to communicate with Jiam, the creature was intelligent. Far more intelligent than the researchers had realized. It understood words. It responded to gestures. It had moods and preferences, and something that looked very much like a sense of humor. GM liked to play. It would chase balls of light that Una made with her datapad. It would hide behind pillars and jump out at her, making soft rumbling sounds that she realized were laughter. It hated the color yellow for reasons she never understood. And it loved having its scarred snout scratched while Una read aloud from her textbooks. The researchers watched everything through cameras. They took notes. They made theories. But they never came close. Only Una could approach GM. Only Una could touch it without dying. One day, a group of students cornered Una in a back corridor. There were 5 of them, all from a species called the Verith. They were tall and muscular, with hard shells covering their bodies. They looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. "You should not be here," the leader said. His name was Thok. "Humans do not belong at this academy. You are weak. You are soft. You only got attention because you got lucky with that monster." Una faced them calmly. "GM is not a monster. It is a beast. And you are a fool for thinking you control it. One day, it will eat you like it ate all the others." The other Verith laughed. They moved closer, trying to intimidate her with their size. Una took a step back. She was not afraid of words, but she was not stupid either. These beings could crush her with one hand. Then a shadow fell over the corridor. GM emerged from around the corner. No one had heard it coming. No one ever heard it coming. It moved with perfect silence despite its massive size, appearing like a nightmare made real. The Varith froze. GM walked forward slowly. Its claws clicked against the floor. Its orange eyes fixed on Thok with burning intensity. A growl built in its chest, low and terrible, the sound of death itself. "Call it off," Thok said, his voice suddenly shaky. "Human, call it off." Una did not move. She did not speak. She just watched GEOM stopped in front of Thok, its head lowered until it was level with his face. Its breath washed over him, hot and rancid. Its jaws opened slightly, revealing teeth like curved knives. Thok ran. His friends ran with him. They fled down the corridor, shells clattering, dignity forgotten. GM watched them go, then turned to Una and made a satisfied purring sound. "Thank you," Una said softly. She reached up and scratched behind its ear. "But try not to scare them too much. We are supposed to be making friends." GM made a sound that was definitely laughter. Word spread through the academy. The human girl had a guardian. The Ravager protected her like a mother protects its young. Anyone who threatened her would face the most dangerous predator in known space. The other species began to look at humans differently. Veselthran came to visit Una one evening. He watched GM sleeping in the corner of her room, its massive body rising and falling with each breath. "My people have been traveling the stars for 10,000 years, he said slowly. "We have never seen anything like this." "Like what?" "Like you. Like your species." He turned to look at her. "We thought humans were weak. You have no natural weapons. No armor, no venom. You come from a planet that should have killed you 100 times over. How did you survive?" Una thought about the question. She thought about Earth's history, about wolves becoming dogs, about wild horses becoming trusted companions, about cats guarding grain stores and hawks hunting alongside humans. "We survived because we made friends," she said finally. "Not with other humans. With everything. We looked at the wolves that hunted us and saw something we could love. We looked at the horses that ran from us and saw something we could ride. We looked at every predator, every beast, every monster, and we asked the same question: can we be family?" Veselthran stared at her. His tongue flickered out nervously. "Other species evolved to fight," Una continued. "Or to hide. Or to run. We evolved to connect. It is in our blood. It is in our hearts. We cannot help it. We see a creature in pain, and we want to help it. We see something alone, and we want to be its friend. She looked at Jiam, who had opened one eye to watch them. Jiam was not a monster. Jiam was a baby taken from its mother and taught that the universe was full of pain. Everyone showed it fear and hatred, so it gave back fear and hatred. But I showed it something else. I showed it kindness, and that was all it took. Vessel Thran was quiet for a long time. Your species is very young, he finally said. You have only been among the stars for a short time. Many of us thought you would never amount to anything. We thought you would stay on your little planet and fade away. And now? He looked at Jiam. He looked at Yuna. He looked at the bond between them that should have been impossible. Now I think we were wrong about you. Very, very wrong. He left without another word. But Yuna saw the expression on his face. It was not fear. It was not confusion. It was respect. The beast broke loose, then guarded the human student like its own Part 5. The reckoning. The attack came without warning. Yuna was in the library when the explosion started. The floor shook. The lights flickered and died. Emergency alarms screamed through the corridors as red light flooded every room. Attention all personnel, a voice announced over the speakers. The academy is under attack. Hostile forces have breached the outer hull. All students must proceed to emergency shelters immediately. Jiam was already at her side. The creature had sensed something wrong even before the first explosion. Its muscles were tense, its eyes scanning every shadow. A low growl rumbled in its chest. Easy, Yuna whispered. Stay with me. They moved through the corridors together. Yuna could hear screaming in the distance. Plasma fire. The sounds of battle. She did not know who was attacking or why. She only knew they needed to get somewhere safe. But safety was not possible. They turned a corner and found themselves facing a group of armed soldiers. They wore black armor and carried heavy weapons. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their body language was clear. They were killers. There, one of them said, pointing at Yuna. That is the human with the creature. Command wants them both alive, if possible. Jiam stepped in front of Yuna, placing its massive body between her and the soldiers. The growl in its chest became a roar. The soldiers opened fire. Plasma bolts struck Jiam's armored scales and bounced away. The creature charged forward, moving faster than anything that large should be able to move. The soldiers tried to run, but they were too slow. Jiam tore through them like wind through paper. Yuna looked away. She heard the screams. She heard the tearing metal. And then she heard silence. Jiam returned to her side, its claws dripping with blood. It made a soft questioning sound, checking if she was hurt. I'm okay, Yuna said, though her voice was shaking. We need to find the others. We need to help. They moved deeper into the academy. Everywhere they went, they found chaos. The attackers had come in force, overwhelming the security systems. Students and faculty were being rounded up at gunpoint. The few security drones that remained were being destroyed one by one. Yuna learned the truth from a wounded officer she found hiding in a maintenance shaft. The attackers were the Broken Empire, a faction of raiders who preyed on research stations and remote colonies. They had come for the Academy's specimens and technology. They had come to take everything valuable and kill everyone else. They have the council, the officer gasped. They have most of the students. The main assembly hall. They are going to start executing hostages if we do not give them access to the vaults. How many attackers? Yuna asked. Maybe 50. Maybe more. They have heavy weapons. We cannot stop them. Yuna looked at Jiam. The creature looked back at her. There was no fear in its orange eyes. Only trust. Only loyalty. Only a question. What do you want me to do? "Can you open the maintenance tunnels to the assembly hall?" Yuna asked the officer. "Yes, but you cannot go there. They will kill you." "They will try," Yuna said quietly. The tunnels were dark and narrow. Jim barely fit, its massive body scraping against the walls. But it followed Yuna without hesitation, trusting her completely. They emerged in a storage room adjacent to the main assembly hall. Through the door, Yuna could hear voices. The raiders were laughing, celebrating their easy victory. She heard crying too. The hostages. Her classmates. Her teachers died. She thought about the Vera students who had threatened her. She thought about Vessel Thran, who had looked at her with new respect. She thought about Kan Do-yun, who had believed her when no one else would. They were all in that room. They were all going to die unless someone did something. Yuna placed her hand on GM's head. "I need you to do something for me," she whispered. "I need you to protect them. All of them. Can you do that?" GM made a sound that meant yes. Yuna opened the door. The raiders barely had time to react. One moment they were in control, weapons pointed at terrified hostages. The next moment, death itself was among them. GM moved through the room like a storm. It targeted only the armed attackers, ignoring the hostages completely. Its claws flashed. Its jaws snapped. Plasma fire bounced off its scales. The raiders screamed and tried to fight back, but they might as well have been fighting a god. Yuna walked through the chaos untouched. GM always knew where she was, always kept a clear path around her. She moved to the hostages and began untying them, helping them to their feet, guiding them to safety. "Go to the emergency shuttles," she told them calmly. "Get off the station. We will handle the rest." They obeyed. They ran. And behind them, GM finished its work. When it was over, the floor was covered with the bodies of raiders. Not one hostage had been harmed. GM stood in the center of the room, blood dripping from its claws, breathing heavily. But when it saw Yuna approaching, its posture softened. It lowered its head and pressed its snout against her hand. "Good," Yuna whispered. "You did so good." The rescue fleet arrived 2 hours later. Lee Taiwan came with them. He was a senior diplomat from Earth, tall and calm, with gray hair and eyes that had seen many things. He looked at the assembly hall. He looked at the dead raiders. He looked at Yuna and the massive creature standing protectively beside her. The Academy Council wanted to give a speech. They wanted to thank the human girl who had saved them. But Taiwan stopped them. He had something to say first. He stood before the assembled survivors, humans and aliens alike, and spoke in a voice that carried through the hall. "You have seen today what one human and one beast can do together. You have seen the Ravager kill for us and protect us. I know many of you are wondering how this is possible. How can the weakest species in the galaxy tame the strongest predator?" He paused. His eyes found Yuna in the crowd. "The answer is simple. We are not the weakest species. We are the strangest. Other species look at predators and see enemies. We look at predators and see friends we have not made yet. The wolf that hunted us became the dog that guards our children. The horse that ran from us became the steed that carries us to war. Every monster you fear, we have loved." He turned to face the council directly. "This creature killed for us today. Not because we controlled it. Not because we forced it. But because a human girl showed it kindness when no one else would. Because she saw a scared animal instead of a monster. Because she loved it." He gestured at Yuna and GM. "This is what humanity brings to the galaxy. Not strength. Not technology. Not weapons. We bring the ability to make family out of anything. To turn enemies into allies. To teach predators what loyalty means." The hall was silent. Every eye was on Yuna and the creature beside her. Taiwan smiled slightly. "You thought we were soft. You thought we were weak. But we are the species that looks at death and asks if it wants to be friends. And sometimes, Death says yes. Yuna graduated from the academy 3 years later. She returned to Earth with Jium by her side, registered as her official bonded companion, the first such registration in galactic history. She established the Interspecies Bonding Institute, dedicated to understanding how humans connected with creatures across the stars. Other species sent their young to learn from her. They wanted to understand the human gift. They wanted to know how to see friends instead of monsters. Yuna taught them what she could. But she knew the truth. It was not really something that could be taught. It was something you had to feel. You had to look at a creature in pain and want to help it. You had to look at something terrifying and see something beautiful. You had to be human. Jium lived for many more years. It followed Yuna everywhere, guarding her, loving her, trusting her completely. And when it finally passed, surrounded by Yuna and her family, it died with its head in her lap and peace in its ancient eyes. The galaxy never forgot what they had seen. The humans were no longer the soft newcomers to the cosmic stage. They were the beast tamers, the monster lovers, the species that walked into darkness and made the shadows their friends, and the beast loved them for it.